Do you want to learn how to play Gene? Of course you do. Who wouldn't want to master this insane, do-it-all brawler who can not only support his team, but also make crazy plays? If that's you, make sure you stick around so you can fully grasp Gene. Gene is a controller brawler who excels at enabling his team. One way he does this is by using his primary attack, Smoke Blast, along with a vision gear to not only clear bushes but give his team info, whether he hits an enemy or not. His primary attack does about 2,000 damage, while not landed splits off and does 333 damage. Gene's super is Magic Hand. Upon activation, it shoots forward hitting the first enemy or turret, pulling them in towards Gene. Pair this with an extended range gear and your enemies will never feel safe when your super is up. Gene has two star powers, Magic Puffs and Spirit Slap. Magic Puff allows Gene to heal his teammates for 576 health per second, while Spirit Slap makes Gene's super do 2,000 damage. In situations where you want to be really enabling for your team, the star power you should go with is Magic Puffs. The reason for this is just the sustain that you're able to give your team will prevent you from having to reset as often, keeping you in the fight longer, making sure that you can fight the fight on your terms. But if the enemy team has tinkier characters and or you just want more damage, I would go with Spirit Slap. The reason for this is it just makes your super do more damage, and if you're hitting your super doing 2,000, throwing a few extra shots in, hitting a couple more 2,000s, the enemy team gonna need to have a lot of health to be able to survive that. Now, onto his gadgets, Lamp Blowout and Vengeful Spirits. Same as before with the star powers, one can be used more defensively, while the other one has more offensive potential. Lamp Blowout, upon activation, knocks back enemy brawlers in its radius, while also healing Gene for 10% of his health. This can be used to create distance between you and an aggressive brawler who chose to dive you, while, on the other hand, Vengeful Spirits, upon activation, shoots out a homing missile, where as you can see, that would be more offensive. This can do up to 1,600 damage, scaling with distance, so as it reaches its range, the farther it goes, obviously, does more damage. I prefer to use this gadget on maps that are a little bit more open, or just, like I said, if I need more damage, but preferably if the map is more open. This will help me do more damage, build my super faster, which will enable me to get a nice little juicy pool. Now, for Gene's Hypercharge. When activated, Gene now is 26% faster, does 25% more damage, and has a 5% shield, which is pretty cool. His Hypercharge also augments his super, making it not only fire, or not one, not two, but 3 magic hands. This makes it almost impossible to miss while creating the option to pull more than one brawler. So if you're playing against a team comp that's maybe a little bit more squishy, you could quite literally pull 1, 2, 3, and set up your team to get a massive team wipe. When it comes to maps that Gene does well on, he performs well on maps that have heavy bushery, and the reason for that is he's just so great at clearing, as well as maps that give him cover that he can poke from, right? And the reason for that is because even though he has long range, other brawlers that have equal range will do more damage because his max range, he has lower damage, while other brawlers' max range is at the higher end, right, when it comes to damage. Game modes that Gene excels at are going to be Gem Grab and Brawl Ball. I believe he can also do well in Hot Zone, but these two specifically I think are definitely his bread and butter, just due to his crowd control. Gene is able to punish brawlers in both of these modes due to those fixed objectives they have to play around, making it easier to hit those supers. Let's talk about some matchups for Gene. Into brawlers that have more range than he does, effective range, Gene's gonna struggle just for the fact that even if Gene is hitting his shots at that max range, they're gonna be doing more damage than he is. It's gonna force Gene to have to walk up and maybe put himself in a not so great position. Gene also doesn't do well into brawlers who can easily get on top of him, especially ones that have crowd control. Kit, yeah. But brawlers that he does do well into are brawlers who not necessarily can match that range, as well as brawlers who rely on bushes to do a lot of their work. And the reason why I say that is because since, you run that vision gear, as well as you're just so good at clearing bushes, your team will always know where enemies are at, making it really hard for them to use those bushes to sneak around. Just to give you a better visual, I'm going to try to put some examples on the screen. Listen, man, I am not a genius. I am not the best of the best, and I actually don't know all of the brawlers yet. So I can't give you an exact, this is good, this is bad into Gene, but I will give you from my experience what I know so far. And before we get to the end of this video, I also want to give you a few little tips that I feel are good to know, right? So super actually passes through walls, right? And on its pull, right? If you pull an enemy through a breakable wall, it will actually break that wall, right? So you can use that in a lot of cool ways, whether you're just pulling somebody and breaking a wall just because, or you're doing it because that's a wall maybe the enemy team needed. And or let's say, for example, you're playing against someone like Pam, who throws down a heal turret, right? Let's say you really want to break a wall, or just create an opening somewhere that'll help your team. You can't get a pull on somebody else, but that turret is there. You can actually pull that turret through that wall and get that same effect, right? Another tip is don't be too antsy to just use your super. The reason for that is because just having that pull, just having your super up is a threat within itself, because the enemy team has to constantly think, will I get pulled here? Will I get pulled here? Am I too close? Things like that. And just having that mental pressure on a player will make them play a certain way, not, you know, putting themselves in a position to easily get pulled, because obviously you get pulled, you get schooled, right? As well as when it comes to that pull, do be aware of your team. Man, it can be easy to just pull, you know, just pull any kind of brawler and be like, oh, well, I hit a pull, we should win, right? But you really need to be aware of not only your team's ammo count, but as well as, you know, their health. You know, are they in a position to help you finish off that brawler if you can't do it yourself, right? So make sure if you are pulling in a brawler, if you can't finish it yourself, please be mindful of your teammates, because nothing's worse than pulling in a brawler that you can't handle yourself, as well as your teammates low, and now that brawler just got a free teleport, in a sense, right? So without further ado, if you want to see a Gene breakdown, right, you can click right up here so that you can get a little bit more information on the way that I think when I play Gene, as well as I hope I provided you with enough information so that you are able to grasp your favorite Gene. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, take care.